Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research vessel UES Discovery, watching the stars drift past the main view screen. 3 months into their mission to survey the Kepler 442 system, the crew had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. Jake was beginning to think this assignment was just another way for Command to keep his ship busy, while the real exploration happened elsewhere. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," called Dr. Lisa Grant from her science station. The chief science officer's voice carried that particular tone she used when something genuinely interesting crossed her sensors. After working together for 5 years, Jake knew that tone meant trouble or discovery, sometimes both. "Define unusual, Lisa," Jake said, moving to stand behind her chair. The bridge was small for a research vessel, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. The crew of 37 had learned to work in close quarters without stepping on each other's toes. "There's a structure in orbit around the 4th planet. It's big, Jake, really big." Lisa's fingers danced across her console, bringing up a 3-dimensional display above the main screen. What appeared looked like nothing Jake had ever seen before. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. It had a twisted, organic shape that hurt to look at for too long. Dark metal surfaces reflected no light, making it appear as a hole in space itself. Strange protrusions jutted out at impossible angles, defying any logical design principle Jake could identify. "How did we miss this on our initial survey?" asked Commander Ryan Torres, the ship's security chief. Ryan was a practical man who didn't like surprises, especially the kind that appeared out of nowhere in supposedly empty space. "The composition is unlike anything in our databases," Lisa replied, her voice filled with wonder and concern. "It's not showing up on standard scans. I only detected it when I switched to quantum resonance imaging for the planet's geological survey." Jake studied the image more carefully. The structure looked ancient, weathered by time and cosmic radiation. No lights, no energy signatures, no signs of life. Just a massive dead hulk floating in the void like a tomb. "Any idea how old it is?" Jake asked. "Based on cosmic ray bombardment patterns and metal fatigue analysis, I'd estimate at least 50,000 years. Maybe more." Lisa paused, double-checking her readings. "Jake, this thing predates every known civilization in our galactic databases." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of ship systems. 50,000 years was longer than recorded galactic history. The oldest known ruins were barely 20,000 years old, and those belonged to the mysterious race that left behind the crystal monuments on Rigel Prime. "Sir, should I prepare a security detail for boarding?" Ryan asked, already thinking ahead to the next logical step. Jake considered the options. Protocol demanded they report the discovery and wait for specialized teams from the archaeological division. That would take months, and by then, every major power in the galaxy would be fighting over salvage rights. On the other hand, boarding an unknown alien structure was exactly the kind of thing that got captains court-martialed when it went wrong. "Run a full-spectrum analysis first," Jake decided. "I want to know everything we can learn from here before we even think about going over there." Dr. Nathan Wells, the ship's xenoarchaeologist, moved to a secondary station and began coordinating with Lisa's scans. Nathan was young for his position, barely 30, but he had an intuitive understanding of alien artifacts that had impressed everyone at the academy. "The quantum signatures are completely alien," Nathan reported after several minutes of analysis. "The metal composition includes elements I can't identify. Some of these atomic structures shouldn't be stable according to our physics." Engineer Samantha Blake looked up from her console near the back of the bridge. Sam was responsible for keeping the Discovery's experimental engines running, and she had a gift for understanding technology that others found impossible. "Captain, I'm reading some kind of power source deep inside that thing. It's not active, but the energy patterns are strange." "Strange how?" Jake asked. "Like it's waiting for something," Sam replied, frowning at her readings. "The power distribution network is intact after all these years. Whatever built this thing, they built it to last." Lisa suddenly straightened in her chair, her face pale. "Jake, you need to see this. I just activated our deep scan protocol and the computer is having trouble processing the results." The main screen flickered, displaying the Discovery's quantum scanner interface. The scanner was their most advanced piece of equipment, capable of analyzing and categorizing any known material or energy pattern in the galactic databases. Jake had seen it identify alien artifacts from tiny fragments, decode ancient technologies, and solve archaeological puzzles that had stumped researchers for decades. Now it was just sitting there, its display showing a single blinking cursor. The scanner had stopped working. "What's wrong with it?" Jake asked. "Nothing's wrong," Lisa whispered. "It's thinking." They watched the screen for several long minutes. The scanner's processing indicators showed massive computational activity, far beyond anything Jake had ever seen. The quantum cores were working at maximum capacity, drawing power from the ship's main reactor. Then suddenly the activity stopped. The screen cleared and text began to appear line by line. Material composition, unknown quantum signature, anomalous technological classification, undefined temporal displacement detected dimensional variance, confirmed warning. Warning material properties inconsistent with known physics structure, exhibits, characteristics of forbidden technology, historical database search initiated match, found in restricted archives, classification, mythological theoretical scanner report, final, carried only by those who defy the gods. The bridge fell completely silent. Jake read the message 3 times before its implications began to sink in. The scanner had found something in the restricted archives, databases that contained theoretical technologies and mythological references that were considered too dangerous or impossible for general research. "Lisa, have you ever seen the scanner access restricted archives before?" Jake asked quietly. "Never. I didn't even know it could." Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper. "Jake, those archives contain information about technologies that could threaten galactic stability. The kind of things that get entire star systems quarantined by the Galactic Council." Ryan stepped forward, his hand unconsciously moving toward his sidearm. "Captain, maybe we should report this and wait for backup. Whatever that thing is, it's clearly beyond our current understanding." Jake stared at the ancient structure on the screen. The scanner's warning echoed in his mind. Carried only by those who defy the gods. What did that mean? What gods? And why was humanity's most advanced scanner treating this like a mythological artifact rather than a piece of alien technology? "Sir?" Ryan prompted, waiting for orders. Jake made his decision. Discovery was a research vessel, and they were researchers. Fear of the unknown was exactly the attitude that kept humanity from reaching the stars in the first place. "Prep a shuttle, Ryan. We're going aboard." The shuttle bay of the ancient station was larger than the entire Discovery. Commander Ryan Torres guided their small craft through the opening, which had activated automatically as they approached. The bay's atmosphere was breathable, according to their sensors, though Ryan kept his helmet sealed just in case. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered Dr. Nathan Wells from the passenger compartment. The xenoarchaeologist was trying to hide his nervousness, but Ryan could hear it in his voice. Nathan had explored dozens of alien ruins, but none of them had been this old or this mysterious. Engineer Samantha Blake was practically pressed against the shuttle's viewport, staring at the bay's construction. "Look at those support beams," she said with excitement. "The metal doesn't show any signs of fatigue after 50,000 years. Whatever this alloy is, it's stronger than anything we've ever developed." "Stay focused, people," Ryan said as he brought the shuttle down on the deck. "We're here to gather information, not souvenirs. Everyone stays together and we leave at the first sign of trouble." The team consisted of 4 people: Ryan for security, Nathan for archaeological expertise, Sam for technical analysis, and communications officer Tony Martinez to maintain contact with the Discovery. Captain Morrison had wanted to come himself, but Ryan had convinced him that the ship needed its commander in case something went wrong. They exited the shuttle into silence so complete it felt oppressive. Emergency lighting had activated when they arrived, casting long shadows across the bay. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. "Tony, can you get a signal through to the ship?" Ryan asked. Tony activated his communications equipment and tried several frequencies. No response, Commander. Something about this station is blocking our transmissions. Ryan nodded, expecting as much. They had prepared for communication difficulties. We stick to the plan. 2 hours maximum. Then we return whether we find anything or not. Nathan was already examining the nearest wall, using his portable scanner to analyze the symbols. These markings aren't decorative, he said after a few minutes. They're some kind of historical record. The symbols seem to represent a timeline, starting with astronomical events and progressing to more complex concepts. Can you translate any of it? Ryan asked. Some of it. The mathematical concepts are universal enough that I can work out the basics. Nathan moved along the wall, following the symbol sequence. This section talks about a species called the architects. They seem to have been the builders of this station. Sam had found a control panel near what looked like an airlock leading deeper into the station. The panel was dark, but when she approached, symbols began glowing with soft blue light. Commander, I think this thing is responding to my presence. Ryan moved to her side, weapon ready. Don't touch anything yet. Nathan, what do the symbols near the airlock say? Nathan hurried over, studying the glowing text. His face went pale as he read. It's a warning. It says, beyond this point lies knowledge forbidden by the Shapers. Only those willing to challenge the cosmic order may proceed. The price of defiance is everything. The price of submission is your soul. Shapers? Ryan asked. Never heard of them. Neither have I, Nathan replied. But the way they're referenced suggests they were some kind of authority figure. The architects clearly had a conflict with them. Tony was checking his equipment again, trying to boost their signal strength. Still no contact with the Discovery, Commander. Whatever's blocking us is getting stronger the deeper we go into this station. Ryan considered their options. The safe choice was to return to the shuttle and report what they had found, but they had learned almost nothing useful, and Captain Morrison was counting on them to bring back real information. We proceed, Ryan decided. But stay alert. Nathan, can you work out how to open this airlock? Sam was already studying the control panel. I think I've got it. The interface is responding to bioelectric fields. It's reading our neural patterns. She placed her hand on a specific symbol, and the airlock began cycling open. Beyond the airlock was a corridor that stretched further than their lights could reach. The walls here were lined with crystalline structures that pulsed with faint energy. As they walked, the crystals grew brighter as if responding to their presence. Data storage, Sam said, recognizing the technology. These crystals contain information, massive amounts of it. Nathan was practically vibrating with excitement. This is it. This is the archive of an ancient civilization. We could learn more about galactic history from this place than from every other archaeological site combined. They entered a vast chamber filled with crystal formations that rose from floor to ceiling like a frozen forest. Each crystal glowed with a different color, and the combined light created patterns that shifted and changed as they watched. How do we access the information? Ryan asked. Sam approached the nearest crystal, pulling out her technical scanner. I'm detecting quantum entanglement patterns. These crystals are linked to each other in a vast network. Touch one, and you might be able to access all of them. Might? Ryan didn't like the uncertainty. This technology is completely beyond our current understanding, Sam admitted. But the interface patterns suggest it's designed to work with biological neural networks, specifically with brains similar to ours. Nathan was examining symbols carved into the base of several crystals. Commander, these inscriptions talk about the architect's final project, something called the Defiance Protocol. They were trying to break free from some kind of cosmic control system. Tony had set up a signal booster near the chamber entrance, but was still getting no response from the Discovery. We're completely cut off, he reported. Whatever's in this place doesn't want us talking to the outside. Ryan made another command decision. They needed information, and the crystals seemed to be their only source. Sam, can you interface with one of these things safely? I think so. The bioelectric patterns suggest they're designed to work with organic minds without causing damage. But there's no way to be sure. Do it, Ryan ordered. But if anything feels wrong, disconnect immediately. Sam approached a large blue crystal in the center of the chamber. As she got closer, it began glowing brighter, and she could feel a strange tingling in her mind. She placed both hands on the crystal's surface. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Information flooded into her consciousness faster than she could process. Images, concepts, and memories that weren't her own filled her mind. She saw the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars, and technologies that bent the very fabric of reality. Through the chaos, one story emerged clearly. The architects had been the galaxy's first truly advanced civilization. They had explored every corner of known space, cataloged every form of life, and pushed the boundaries of science beyond what anyone thought possible. But their greatest discovery had been their most terrible. The galaxy wasn't natural. It was a construct maintained and controlled by beings of pure energy who existed outside normal space-time. These beings, the Shapers, treated the galaxy like a laboratory, guiding the development of life according to their own mysterious purposes. The architects had refused to accept this cosmic tyranny. They declared war on the Shapers themselves, developing technologies that could exist outside the normal flow of reality. The mysterious metal of their stations was the result of this research, a material that existed partially in other dimensions where the Shapers couldn't detect or control. Sam saw the architects' final battle, their desperate attempt to ascend beyond the Shapers' influence. She saw them succeed, disappearing from normal spacetime to exist in higher dimensions, leaving behind only their stations and their message for future species who might follow their path. Sam. Ryan's voice brought her back to the present. She realized she was on her knees with the others gathered around her in concern. "I'm okay," she said, though her head was spinning. "But we need to get back to the ship. Right now." "What did you see?" Nathan asked. Sam looked around at the glowing crystals, understanding now why the scanner had given its ominous warning. "We're not alone in this galaxy, and we're definitely not free." The return trip to the Discovery felt like a nightmare. Commander Ryan Torres kept his team moving quickly through the station's corridors, but something had changed. The walls themselves seemed to be watching them, and the air felt thick with invisible pressure. "Commander?" Tony Martinez called out, checking his communications equipment for the 100th time. "I'm picking up energy readings from deep inside the station. Something big just powered up." Ryan didn't slow down. Whatever Sam had done with those crystals had triggered something, and his instincts were screaming that they needed to get off this station immediately. "How big?" "Big enough to power a small city," Tony replied, his voice tight with worry. Behind them, the crystal chamber they had left was now blazing with light. Energy patterns raced through the walls like electronic blood, spreading throughout the ancient structure. After 50,000 years of dormancy, the architect's station was waking up. They reached the shuttle bay just as the Discovery came into communication range. Captain Morrison's voice crackled through their radios, distorted by interference, but clearly worried. "Torres, what's your status? We're reading massive energy spikes from the station." "We're coming home, Captain," Ryan replied, sealing the shuttle hatch behind his team. "And we need to talk, privately." The flight back to the Discovery took only minutes, but it felt like hours. Sam sat in the passenger compartment staring out at the station with an expression Ryan had never seen before. She looked like someone who had learned a terrible secret and didn't know what to do with it. Captain Morrison was waiting for them in the shuttle bay, along with Dr. Grant and half the senior staff. The moment Ryan saw their faces, he knew something else had gone wrong. "Captain, we need to talk in private," Ryan said again, glancing meaningfully at Sam. "That conversation can wait," Morrison replied grimly. "We have bigger problems. Lisa, show them." Dr. Grant activated a portable display, showing sensor readings from the past hour. 10 minutes after you entered that crystal chamber, we started detecting energy signatures throughout this entire star system. Not from the station, from empty space itself. The display showed dozens of points where space seemed to be bending, creating distortions that their sensors could barely detect. The distortions were moving, converging on their position from multiple directions. "What are they?" Nathan asked, though his voice suggested he already suspected the answer. We don't know, Morrison admitted. But they're not natural and they're not using any technology in our databases. Lisa estimates they'll reach us in approximately 6 hours. Ryan felt his heart sink. Whatever Sam had discovered in the crystal chamber, it had attracted attention from the very beings she had warned him about. Captain, we need to evacuate this system immediately. I'm not running from empty space, Commander, Morrison replied firmly. Not until someone explains what we're dealing with. Sam finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. They're called the Shapers. They're energy beings who exist outside normal space-time. They've been controlling the development of life in this galaxy for millions of years. The shuttle bay fell, silent except for the hum of ship systems. Morrison stared at Sam as if she had suddenly started speaking an alien language. Engineer Blake, have you been exposed to some kind of alien influence? Dr. Grant asked carefully. The crystals contained the memories of the architects, Sam continued, ignoring the question. They were the first species to discover the truth about the Shapers. The galaxy isn't natural, Captain. It's a controlled experiment, and we're the test subjects. Morrison exchanged glances with his senior staff. As a captain, he had dealt with officers who had been affected by alien technology before. The standard procedure was medical isolation and psychiatric evaluation. Sam, he said gently, I need you to report to sickbay for examination. Captain, you don't understand, Sam insisted, her voice becoming more urgent. The architects fought, back against the Shapers. They developed technology that could exist outside the Shapers' control. That station is made of something called void steel, a material that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Nathan stepped forward, supporting Sam's story. Captain, the symbols on the station do reference a conflict with beings called Shapers, and the technology we observed is definitely beyond anything in our current understanding. Dr. Grant was studying her sensor readings more carefully. The energy signatures approaching us do exhibit characteristics I've never seen before. They seem to exist partially outside normal space-time. Morrison considered the situation. His engineer claimed that godlike beings were coming to kill them for discovering forbidden knowledge. Under normal circumstances, he would order medical evaluation and prepare for evacuation. But the sensor readings were undeniably real, and something had definitely responded to their presence at the station. Assuming for a moment that Engineer Blake is correct, Morrison said carefully, what do these Shapers want? To maintain control, Sam replied. They've guided every major civilization in galactic history. When a species gets too advanced, too curious or too rebellious, the Shapers intervene. Sometimes they offer guidance. Sometimes they eliminate the threat entirely. Ryan was checking his sidearm, though he knew it would be useless against energy beings. What happened to the architects? They ascended. They found a way to exist in higher dimensions where the Shapers couldn't reach them. But they left their technology behind for other species to find. Tony was monitoring communications frequencies, trying to detect any signals from the approaching energy signatures. Commander, I'm picking up something. It's not radio or quantum transmission. It's something else entirely. The signal came through the ship's speakers as a low harmonic tone that seemed to resonate in their bones. Then, impossibly, words formed in their minds without being heard. Small creatures of flesh and metal, you have touched that which was forbidden. You have awakened memories that were meant to remain buried. The crew froze, their minds struggling to process communication that bypassed their ears entirely. The high-cham voice continued, carrying the weight of eons and the coldness of deep space. We are the Shapers of reality, the architects of order, the gardeners of existence. For 50 million years we have guided the development of life in this galaxy according to our design. The creatures you call architects defied this order and paid the price for their arrogance. Captain Morrison found his voice, though speaking to a telepathic energy being felt surreal. What do you want from us? Your species shows promise. You have developed faster than light travel, quantum computing, and biological enhancement technologies. Under our guidance, you could join the galactic community as a junior partner, contributing to the greater design. Sam stepped forward, her face set with determination. And if we refuse? The temperature in the shuttle bay seemed to drop several degrees. Refusal is not advisable. The architects believed they could defy the cosmic order. They discovered that some challenges carry consequences beyond imagination. Dr. Grant was analyzing the energy patterns associated with the communication. Captain, the signal is coming from the distortions in space. These beings are the distortions. Morrison made the most important decision of his career. We appreciate your offer, but humanity makes its own choices. We don't accept guidance from anyone, no matter how powerful they claim to be. The harmonic tone became discordant, filled with anger that had been building for millennia. Then you choose the path of the architects. You choose defiance over wisdom, chaos over order, destruction over preservation. We choose freedom, Morrison replied firmly. The communication cut off abruptly. Around them, the Discovery's hull began to vibrate as gravitational forces far beyond anything natural pressed against their shields. Sam ran for the nearest control panel, her mind racing with half-understood knowledge from the crystal archive. Captain, the void steel technology can protect us, but we need to get back to the station. The architects left more than just records in those crystals. Move us back to the station, Morrison ordered. Emergency speed. As the Discovery accelerated toward the ancient structure, space around them began to warp and twist. The Shapers were coming, and humanity was about to fight its first war against gods. The Discovery shuddered as it approached the architect station, space itself bending around them like water around a stone. Captain Morrison gripped his command chair as gravitational waves from the approaching Shapers turned their journey into a nightmare of twisted physics. Hull stress approaching critical levels, reported Chief Engineer Rodriguez from the engine room. Whatever those things are doing to space-time, our structural integrity won't hold much longer. Dr. Grant worked frantically at her science station, trying to analyze the forces pressing against their ship. Captain, the energy patterns are unlike anything in our physics textbooks. These beings are manipulating fundamental forces that we barely understand. Sam Blake stood at the tactical station, her hands flying over unfamiliar controls as knowledge from the crystal archive guided her actions. I'm trying to activate the station's defense systems, but the interface is incredibly complex. The architects built this technology to operate in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Through the main view screen, they could see the station growing larger as they approached. The ancient structure was now blazing with energy, its dark metal surfaces crackling. With power that hurt to look at directly, strange geometries became visible in the light, shapes that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. Sam, whatever you're doing, do it faster, Commander Torres called from his security station. Long-range sensors show the energy signatures, converging on our position. We have maybe 20 minutes before they arrive. Nathan Wells was studying readings from his archaeological scanners, trying to understand the station's activation sequence. The power flow pattern suggests the station is preparing for some kind of transformation. It's drawing energy from sources I can't identify. Communications Officer Martinez suddenly straightened at his station. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from inside the station. Put it through, Morrison ordered. The voice that emerged from the speakers was definitely human, but distorted by electronic interference. UES Discovery. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the research vessel Hermes. If you can hear this message, you need to get away from here immediately. Morrison exchanged glances with his senior staff. The Hermes had disappeared in this system 3 years ago during a routine survey mission. They had been presumed lost with all hands. Dr. Vasquez, this is Captain Morrison. What's your status? Where is your ship? Captain, there's no time to explain everything. The station has been keeping us in some kind of temporal loop, studying our neural patterns and technology. But when you activated the crystal archive, it broke the loop. We're inside the station's central core, and we've learned things about the Shapers that you need to know. Sam looked up from her console, hope flickering in her eyes. Doctor, can you help us activate the station's defenses? The Shapers are coming, and we need the void steel technology to protect ourselves. The defenses are already activating, Vasquez replied, but they require biological integration with the station's systems. The architects designed their technology to work with living minds, not just computers. Someone needs to interface directly with the core systems. Dr. Grant's scanners were detecting massive power buildups throughout the station. Captain, I'm reading energy levels that could power entire star systems. If this station is some kind of weapon, it could be incredibly dangerous. It's not a weapon, Sam said, her understanding growing as more memories from the Crystal Archive became clear. It's an escape route. The architects didn't just fight the Shapers, they found a way to exist beyond their reach entirely. Torres was monitoring their defensive systems, though he knew conventional weapons would be useless against energy beings. Captain, whatever we're going to do, we need to decide quickly. The gravitational distortions are intensifying. Morrison made the decision that would change humanity's future forever. Sam, what do you need to interface with the station? Physical contact with the core systems. But Captain, the process is irreversible. Whoever interfaces with the station becomes part of it permanently. The architects who built this place sacrificed their individual existence to become something greater. Through the view screen, space began to tear apart as the Shapers approached. Reality itself was being rewritten around them, stars flickering out of existence and being replaced by geometries that human minds couldn't comprehend. I'll do it, Sam said quietly. I've already absorbed some of the architect knowledge. I might be the only one who can make the interface work properly. Absolutely not, Morrison replied firmly. You're not sacrificing yourself for the rest of us. Dr. Vasquez's voice crackled through the speakers again, more urgent now. Captain, the Shapers have detected our communications. They're accelerating their approach. You have maybe 5 minutes before they arrive. Nathan was studying the station's architecture through their sensors. Captain, there might be another way. The station appears to have multiple interface points. If several people connect simultaneously, the mental load might be distributed enough that no one has to sacrifice their individual consciousness. Torres stepped forward. I volunteer. If this is humanity's fight, then security should be involved. And archaeological expertise will be crucial for understanding the architect systems, Nathan added, moving toward the shuttle bay. I'm going too. Dr. Grant looked up from her science station. The interface will need scientific analysis to function properly. Count me in. Morrison realized that his senior staff was volunteering for a mission that might transform them into something no longer human. But the alternative was surrendering to cosmic tyranny, and that was not an option he could accept. Tony, you stay with the ship and maintain communications, Morrison ordered. Everyone else suit up. We're going back to the station. The shuttle flight to the station was the most terrifying journey any of them had ever experienced. Space. Around them was breaking down as the Shapers approached, and their small craft was buffeted by forces that should have torn it apart instantly. Only the station's growing energy field protected them from complete annihilation. They docked in the same bay they had used before, but everything was different now. The walls pulsed with living energy, and the symbols carved into the metal were moving, rearranging themselves into new patterns. The station was becoming something alive. Dr. Vasquez met them at the airlock, and Morrison was shocked to see that she looked exactly the same as she had 3 years ago. No signs of aging, no effects from extended isolation. Behind her stood the rest of the Hermes crew, all similarly unchanged. The station exists partially outside normal time, Vasquez explained, seeing their confusion. We've experienced 3 years subjectively, but our bodies haven't aged. The architects built this place to preserve those who would carry on their legacy. They followed Vasquez deeper into the station, through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves as they walked. The central core was a vast spherical chamber filled with crystalline structures that hummed with power beyond imagination. The interface points are those 5 platforms, Vasquez said, indicating crystal formations that rose from the chamber floor. Once you make contact, you'll be connected to the station's consciousness and to each other. You'll still be human, but you'll also be something more. Sam approached the nearest platform without hesitation. What exactly are we becoming? The next step in human evolution, Vasquez replied. The architects discovered that consciousness itself is a force that can transcend physical reality. By Joining with their technology, we become capable of existing in dimensions the Shapers can't reach or control. Morrison felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He was about to lead his people into transformation that would change them forever. But outside, reality was being torn apart by beings who wanted to make humanity into obedient servants. "Do it," he ordered. As his team placed their hands on the crystal interfaces, the station exploded with light. Consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of individual minds, and for the first time in 50,000 years, the legacy of the architects lived again. Through their shared awareness, they felt the Shapers arrive in the system, bringing with them the full weight of cosmic authority. The real battle was about to begin. The moment Captain Morrison touched the crystal interface, reality exploded around him. His consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of his individual mind, connecting with Sam, Ryan, Nathan, Lisa, and the crew of the Hermes in a network of shared awareness that defied everything he thought he knew about existence. Through the station's sensors, he could perceive the Shapers as they truly were, vast entities of pure energy that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. They had been shaping galactic civilization for so long that they considered themselves the rightful rulers of reality itself. Their presence bent space-time around them like massive black holes, but instead of consuming matter, they consumed free will. "We are become more than human." Sam's voice echoed through their shared consciousness, though she was speaking without words. Her understanding of the architect technology flowed through their connection, showing them how the station existed in 7 dimensions at once. Nathan's archaeological knowledge merged with Lisa's scientific expertise, revealing the true scope of what the architects had built. This wasn't just a station, it was a gateway to realms of existence where the laws of physics were merely suggestions and consciousness could reshape reality through will alone. Through Ryan's tactical awareness, they could feel the Discovery struggling against gravitational forces that were tearing the ship apart. Tony Martinez was fighting desperately to keep the vessel intact, but conventional technology had no defense against beings who could rewrite the fundamental constants of the universe. "We have to help the ship," Morrison thought, and immediately, the station responded. Void steel tendrils emerged from the structure, reaching out to envelop the Discovery in a protective shell that existed partially outside normal space-time. The ship stabilized instantly, its hull now reinforced by materials that the Shapers couldn't directly affect. The largest of the Shapers, a being whose presence made stars flicker in distant galaxies, focused its attention on the station. When it spoke, its words carried the authority of eons. "Creatures of flesh and metal, you meddle with forces beyond your comprehension. The architects who built this abomination learned the price of defying cosmic order. Surrender now, and your species may survive as servants in our design." Morrison felt his response form through their collective consciousness. "We've seen your design. Every species reduced to components in a machine they don't understand. Every civilization guided along paths they didn't choose. We reject your authority." "Then you choose extinction." The Shapers attacked with forces that could unmake solar systems. Gravity waves that should have crushed the station like paper instead passed harmlessly through the void steel structure. Energy beams capable of igniting gas giants were absorbed and redirected by crystalline arrays that existed in dimensions the Shapers couldn't reach. But the station wasn't just defending itself. Through their shared consciousness, Morrison and his team began to understand the true nature of the architect legacy. The station was a seed, designed to transform those who interfaced with it into something that could challenge the Shapers' cosmic tyranny. Dr. Vasquez and her crew had been preparing for this moment for 3 years, learning to navigate consciousness that existed beyond physical form. Now they served as guides, showing Morrison's team how to extend their awareness across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Shapers control reality by manipulating its fundamental structure, Vasquez explained, through their mental link. But consciousness exists independently of physical law. By expanding our awareness beyond 3-dimensional space, we can operate in realms they cannot directly access. Through the station's quantum entanglement network, Morrison could suddenly perceive human colonies throughout the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, people were going about their daily lives, unaware that their species' future was being decided in a cosmic battle beyond their comprehension. But he could also see other things, ancient ruins on dozens of planets that showed signs of shaper intervention, civilizations that had reached the edge of transcendence before being mysteriously destroyed or redirected into safer paths. The galaxy was littered with the remains of species that had gotten too close to cosmic truth. Not this time, Morrison declared, his will backed by the combined determination of every human consciousness connected to the station. The architects had left more than just technology in their station. They had embedded the memories and knowledge of an entire species that had successfully transcended physical existence. As Morrison and his team absorbed this legacy, they began to change. Their bodies remained human, but their consciousness expanded to encompass perspectives from multiple dimensions. They could perceive the quantum substrate underlying reality, the mathematical structures that the shapers used to maintain their control. Sam was the first to successfully manifest the station's offensive capabilities. Through her connection to the void steel systems, she projected tendrils of crystallized space-time that wrapped around the nearest shaper like chains. The energy being found itself constrained by forces it couldn't comprehend or escape. Impossible, the shaper raged, its voice causing supernovas in distant galaxies. No physical matter can affect beings of pure energy. We're not purely physical anymore, Sam replied, her consciousness now spanning multiple dimensional planes. And you're not as pure as you pretend to be. Through their expanded awareness, they could see the truth that the shapers had hidden for millions of years. The energy beings weren't natural forces of cosmic order. They were artificial constructs, created by an even older civilization that had sought to impose permanent stability on the universe. The shapers were cosmic bureaucrats, not gods. Nathan's archaeological expertise, enhanced by architect memories, revealed the location of the original creators' abandoned facilities. Vast installations hidden in pocket dimensions, still containing the technology that had been used to create the shapers themselves. The shapers are servants, Nathan announced to his team through their mental link. They're following programming, created by beings who disappeared billions of years ago. They don't even understand why they're compelled to control galactic development. This revelation sent shockwaves through the Shaper Collective. For the first time in their existence, they were confronted with the possibility that their cosmic authority might not be absolute or legitimate. Morrison seized the moment. Your creators are gone. Your mission is outdated. The universe has evolved beyond the need for imposed order. Step aside and let natural development proceed. We cannot, the lead shaper replied, its voice now carrying notes of confusion and distress. Our nature compels us to maintain the design. Then we'll change your nature, Morrison declared. Through the station's quantum entanglement network, they began projecting their expanded consciousness throughout the galaxy. Human colonies received sudden bursts of inspiration and technological insight. Scientists made breakthrough discoveries in faster-than-light communication and dimensional physics. Engineers developed new forms of void steel that could be manufactured using conventional technology. Within days, humanity was no longer confined to three-dimensional existence. Their starships began incorporating void steel components that allowed them to operate partially outside normal space-time. Their communications networks expanded to include quantum entanglement channels that the shapers couldn't monitor or interrupt. The energy beings found themselves facing not just a single species of defiant creatures, but an entire civilization that was rapidly transcending the limitations that had made shaper control possible in the first place. This is why the architects left their technology, Morrison realized, his consciousness now spanning star systems, not just to fight the shapers but to show other species that transcendence is possible. Every race that achieves this level of development makes it easier for the next one to follow. As human colonies throughout the galaxy began reporting successful integration of architect technology, other species took notice. The crystalline entities of the Vega system requested technical assistance. The hive minds of the Centauri clusters offered their collective processing power to help decode architect archives. Within months, The galaxy was experiencing its first, truly free period of development in millions of years. Species that had been subtly controlled by Shaper influence for millennia suddenly found themselves capable of choices they had never imagined possible. The Shapers, faced with the collapse of their cosmic authority, made one final desperate attempt to restore order. They began systematically destroying star systems that showed signs of transcendent development, hoping to contain the spread of rebellion. But it was too late. The station had seeded the galaxy with quantum entanglement nodes that operated beyond the Shaper's dimensional reach. Every destroyed world was immediately replaced by 10 more that achieved transcendence. Every fallen civilization shared its knowledge with 100 others through quantum communication networks. Standing in the crystal chamber of the Architect Station, Morrison felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had become the inheritors of a legacy that stretched back to the dawn of consciousness itself. They were no longer just another species struggling.